What an incredible story you have.
You're a mom, a mountaineer, an author, a businesswoman. You have 7 children.
After she survived a horrific car accident.
A serious car accident.
Fatal car accident in 2018.
Who recently made history.
Made history by summiting what are called
the 7-second summits.
A world record for climbing.
First and only woman.
First woman ever to ever set and hold that record.
Managing a household of 7 children.
7 from Utah recently made history.
Jenn Drummond.
Jenn Drummond.
Jenn Drummond.
Jenn Drummond.
Jennifer Drummond is standing on top of the world.
Wonder Woman herself, Jenn Drummond.
Sometimes the accident is the awakening.
Second time trying.
Why am I here? What's my purpose? What can I do with this one magic life? I do not get to choose when I die, but I sure get to choose how I live.
Here's what we've done, and as my confidence grew.
Even if you don't make it to the top of the mountain, the person you become in the pursuit of that has a ripple effect on this world.
Yay! Am I allowed to be the person that looks at those videos sometimes? I'm like, how did I do that? Really? So my story starts, I like to say, with a little jaunt to Heber, Utah, to get a new driver's license. And on my way back from Heber to Park City, I was paying attention to the Jordanelle Reservoir, looking at it, wondering, why isn't it frozen over yet? Are we gonna get enough snow this year to refill all of these? And while my attention was being pulled away, something caught me back. And I looked, and I was coming up hot on a semi-truck going slower than a snail. So I looked in my rearview mirror, I went to get over, and I didn't quite make it. So when that car collided with that semi-truck, externally, life started going really, really fast. Dirt, sky as I was flipping. Internally, life got really slow. Memories flashing forward on things that I've done, regret surfacing on things I hadn't taken time to do, interrupted with me negotiating with death. Please let me live. I promise I'll do something significant, please. And the next thing I remember is a police officer, bending over, looking at me, saying, ma'am, you shouldn't be alive right now. And I'm like, is there anybody else in this accident? He goes, no, it's only you. I'm like, okay. So they took me to the hospital, ran all these tests. I got sent home the same day. And so I had to take an Uber home. I took an Uber. I remember pulling up, this is December 18 of 2018. And I was looking at my front door. And a few weeks earlier, I was looking at my front door thinking, man, I need a new front door. I have dog scratches on this, scooter marks on it. This door just needs to be done as I was hanging up the Christmas wreath. And when I came home from that accident and I looked at that front door, I stared at it for a few minutes before I walked in the house. I'm like, God, what an amazing front door to tell the story of my life. I'm so glad I didn't change it. I open the door, I come into the house, there's kids on rollerblades, there's pizza on the counter, there's chaos going on over here, and one of my kids catches me. He's like, Mom, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, why? He's like, because there's a disaster going on and you're not managing it. And I'm like, no, I'm actually just witnessing it right now, but thank you, honey. And he's like, okay. So I sat with the kids and I told them, hey, I was in an accident and I'm glad I'm gonna be here and things are gonna shift. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I think I was managing life so much that I forgot to be living life. And they're like, okay. So the next week's Christmas and they're opening presents And my son goes, Mom, why aren't you behind us with the garbage bag picking up all the wrappers? I'm like, the wrappers can be picked up. I'm just gonna sit and absorb all of us opening presents right now. They're like, is this the change we're gonna have? And part of it, for sure. So we go through Christmas. A couple weeks later, the police call, and they said, we've rebuilt this accident over 50 different ways. We cannot build a scenario where you live, let alone walk away unscathed. They're like, buy that car for the rest of your life, and we're excited to see what you're gonna do next. That same day, like the same day, a girlfriend of mine calls me to go running in Salt Lake City. And I'm like, it's raining, I'm a fair weather runner, like you go, catch up with me later. Her husband calls me later. He's like, hey Jen, I need you to sit down. I'm like, okay. He's like, she went running, she slipped, she hit her head, and she's not coming home. What? I just survived this horrific car accident, and my friend just passed away running because it was raining? Like, how does this even land in my head? So as metabolizing the circumstances, I realized we don't get to choose when we die, but we absolutely get to choose how we live. And so then the question for me became, like, am I really living? If this life is a gift, what am I giving back to it? And I'm also living with this promise that I made, I'm gonna do something significant with my life. So I started getting curious, and I made a list of all the things I wanted to see, do, and experience before my time was up. Because now I was afraid that that could be next year, next month, next week, we don't know. And so as I'm making this list in 2019, at the end of 2019, I realized in 2020, I was turning 40. I'm like, oh, I need to do something epic for my 40th birthday. So when I'm looking at my list, I'm like, swim with whale sharks, taste pasta in Italy, climb a mountain. I'm like, I'm gonna climb a mountain. Because that's only gonna get harder as I get older. And what a great way to launch this next decade of life is to rise to meet it. So I'm thinking climb a mountain, grab coffee with a girlfriend, hit Timpanogos, and come home. But I'm at a coffee shop in Park City and I'm talking about this. This person overhears it. He's like, listen, I'm a mountaineer. If I was to climb one mountain in the whole world, I'd climb this mountain named Ama de Blanc. I think you should consider it. I'm like, Ama de Blanc? He's like, yeah, it's located in Nepal. It's the Paramount Pictures logo. Later learned it's not, but at the time I thought it was. And he goes, every time you go to the movies, you can tell your kids, I climbed that mountain. He's like, it means the mother's necklace, all the sales pitch. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this is my 40th birthday. I'm gonna climb Ama de Blanc. I don't know if you guys remember the beginning of 2020, this little thing called COVID entered the scene. And so now instead of climbing some exotic mountain in an exotic country like Nepal, I'm homeschooling 7 children. And when I'm homeschooling, I was the mom that made them actually do the work. And so one day, one of my sons was struggling with his math homework. I'm like, we do hard things, buddy. You got this. We all have that parent pep talk in us. And this little guy was on one this day. And he goes, if we do hard things, Mom, why are you climbing a mountain called I'm a Dumb Blonde instead of a real one like Mount Everest? And you guys caught this faster than I did, because I'm like, I'm a dumb blonde. I'm a dumb blonde. Ama de Blanc, honey. Not I'm a dumb blonde. Who are you telling this to? Right? And so he finishes his homework. We look at Everest. He goes to bed. And I'm still looking at Everest. And I think to myself, you know what? If this kid thinks Everest is the hardest mountain in the world, I'm gonna climb it. And I'm gonna show him whatever our Everest is, we're capable of summiting. So I call up a coach. The coach asks me some questions. He's like, yeah, I can get you ready, no problem. He's like, I need you to buy this book about becoming an uphill athlete, though. I'm like, okay. So we're like getting all the plans in motion. This book comes in the mail, and in the front of it is the story of a lady who got a Guinness World Record. And I have 5 sons. The only book I can get them to read from cover to cover is the Guinness World Record book. So somehow, during a conversation with my coach, I'm sure homeschooling was not going well this day, I'm like, you know what? If I got a Guinness World Record, I actually think I'd be a cool mom. Because right now, I am not a cool mom, and it is hard, the schooling stuff and all these things. I was venting. My coach heard it as a challenge. He's like, oh, I'll think of something. Give me a little bit of time. I'm like, okay. So the conversation leaves and whatever. And then a few weeks later, this coach calls me. He's like, Jen, I have like the perfect world record for you. I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay, what is it? He's like, I think you should become the first woman to climb the 7-second summits. I'm like, I don't know what you just said. The what? Is like the second highest point on every continent. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I climb the highest? He's like, well, the seconds are actually harder, and they've never been done by a woman before. And he goes, and think about it. 7 continents, 7 mountains, you have 7 children. It's a jackpot. I'm like, it sounds like a jackpot, but Alan, I still haven't slept in a tent yet. Like, are we sure we're good for this? He's like, oh, no, these are details. Like, you'll be fine. We'll get you caught up on all those. I'm like, okay. Thankfully, I had no clue what I was getting into. So I come home, and I start telling my kids, like, hey, I was talking to my coach, and I'm thinking of doing this world record where I climb these mountains, and my kids start claiming continents. Well, I want Africa, and I want Antarctica, and I want Australia. And like, none of us knew what we were getting into, but the first lesson I learned in that was accountability is love. Because when your kid claims a continent, you better believe that if you don't climb that mountain, there's a whole bunch of other little kids in that family that says, Mom doesn't like you as much as she likes me. She didn't climb your mountain yet. And so all of a sudden, they're equating me climbing the mountain with love, and so I'm climbing that mountain, whatever it takes. And like all pursuits, right? They sound awesome when you're in your living room with your family with like climate control. And so we start on this pursuit, and my coach is like, we're gonna start with an easy one. Ojos del Salado and the Atacama Desert. It sounds sexy and amazing, right? I mean, what? I get there, and I'm on the feature. Like a volcano in a desert is like a pimple on your face. Like there's nothing else to look at. Like you're on the thing. So every step you're taking, you don't even know if you're making progress, except that your watch says an hour has passed. And I'm like, oh, this is mind-boggling. And then because you're on the feature in the desert, there's nothing that keeps the heat in. So when the sun comes up every day and starts heating up air particles, they start moving. So the entire time you're climbing, it's like, you have to scream to hear yourself think. So I come home from this experience and I'm like, Alan, there cannot be another volcano. That was the worst experience of my life. He's like, oh, no, don't worry. That's your only bad one. You're fine. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, what should we do next? And we were saving Mount Kenya for later in the pursuit because it's a rock climb. And I'm not really a rock climber. But a charity reached out when they found out I was doing this pursuit and said they had a charitable connection there, and if I would go climb, then would I be the face of their charity and help bring these things to life? I'm like, yes, all day long. And so now Mount Kenya got moved up on the list. So my coach goes to me, okay, well, I need you to go down to Salt Lake City, go to the climbing gym, hire an instructor, and just get familiar on what you need to do. So I show up at the front in Salt Lake City. Hi, I'm Jen. I'm gonna set a world record in mountaineering and I need to make sure I can rock climb. And the guy's like, okay, so we go through some ropes, whatever. He ties me up. He goes, okay, well, I need to see where you're at. So I need you to go on that wall over there and just climb and then we can make a plan. Like, okay, perfect. I get on that wall. I'm 10 feet off the ground, 10. I start shaking, I start sweating, my vision tunnels, my heart wants to explode out of my chest. I look down at the coach looks up at me, and he gives me like the finger to come down. I come down, I'm like, okay, what just happened? He's like, I think you have a fear of heights. I don't have a fear of heights. Like, how would I not know I have a fear of heights? Like, what? That's what fear feels like? He's like, that's what it looks like. I'm like, well, what are we gonna need to do? Like, I have to climb 17,000 feet on this mountain and I'm scared at 10. He's like, well, we're gonna have to do exposure therapy. I'm like, exposure therapy? He's like, yeah, I need you to get back on that wall. When you feel that fear, I need you to just go one handhold higher, and then you're gonna come down, regain your composure, and we're gonna go back on that wall and try to get one handhold higher. And I need you to come in every single day. I'm like, okay. I would literally go for that climbing gym for like an hour. I'd be so exhausted when I came home that I'd have to take a nap. I decided like, hey, we've been doing 2 weeks. I'm getting farther up the wall. I'm feeling good. I'm gonna take tomorrow off. He's like, no, I wouldn't recommend it. I'm like, no, I'm taking tomorrow off. I took tomorrow off. I came back to the gym, and I went backwards 3 days, right? Like we had to start from 3 days before because that's how much I lost in the momentum. And I realized fear doesn't take time off. We always have to be pushing against it. We have to feel it and have the courage to just reach one handhold higher because then we'll work through it. So thankfully, Mount Kenya was a success, which I'm like, okay, 2 for 2, life's good. This is amazing. And so my next climb was actually Mount Everest. And now Mount Everest being the highest point in the world, we were using it as training ground for K2. So 1, we were climbing Everest to satisfy my son, and then 2, we were climbing it because this is gonna give us a training ground to be like, okay, here's our gear, here's what we're using, here's how we're fueling, here's how your body's handling the lack of oxygen, so that when we get to K2, which is much more dangerous, we already know how to approach K2. I'm like, okay. So we get to Everest, and the best thing about Everest is you have a village of people pursuing the same thing. And the beauty of that and the community of that is when you don't feel like climbing one day, there's a whole bunch of people that do. And so you get to borrow their energy. And if they don't feel like climbing one day, hopefully that's the day that you feel like climbing and you get to share your energy. And so it's so much easier to climb these big mountains when you're surrounded in an environment that's trying to do the same thing, because you get to borrow and play off of each other. And when you climb Everest, which at the time I was not overly clear on, you actually climb Everest multiple times. I literally thought we went there, you set up base camp, it took you a couple weeks to get up and down, and then you were done. What actually happens is you go from base camp to Camp 1, and then all the way back down to base camp. Like, I remember getting to Camp 1, and my guide's like, no, we're gonna go down now. I'm like, you're going down? I'll wait. He's like, no, you have to go down. I'm like, no, we just hiked for 12 hours. Like, why do we need to go down? He's like, you'll understand. I'm like, okay, so we go down, we wait 3 days, the weather is good, and so now we go from base camp to Camp 1, and then we go to Camp 2. And then the guide's like, we're going down. Like, to Camp 1? Can we go to Camp 1? He's like, no, we need to go all the way back down to base camp. And you actually do this from base camp to Camp 1 to Camp 2 to Camp 3, and Camp 3 all the way back down to base camp. And it feels like failure every single time. There's not a bone in your body when you're going the opposite way of the summit that feels good. But here's what happens. You've never been to Camp 3. So your body doesn't know how to respond to that lack of oxygen. You have to go all the way back down to base camp because the stress you experienced at Camp 3 now makes your body physiologically change. So you produce more red blood cells. So when you go back up the mountain, you're able to go higher because you're acclimatizing. And I love this term because a lot of times in our lives, business, pursuits, we get to a Camp 1 and like we want to push. But if we pushed from Camp 1 and kept going, we're not going to summit. Our body's not acclimatized to what's going on. So we have to actually go down the mountain and say, okay, what did that failure, setback, or struggle teach me? What am I learning from this? How do I integrate that into my being so that I can climb higher up the mountain? My son failed a math test the other day. He's like, Mom, I'm acclimatizing. I'm like, not quite, honey, but thank you. Yeah, nice try. So on Everest, there's this little thing called the Khumbu Icefall. This is what they show online all the time. And the Khumbu Icefall is I don't know, if you think of that movie, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and you shrink yourself into a little morsel and you put yourself in like an Oreo cookie blizzard and say, hey, climb out. It shifts 3 to 6 feet a day because the sun will come in at these different angles, get hot spots, melt, and then things fall. And when you're going through it, you have to go like around crevasses, you have to go up crevasses, and then at some point, you have to go across crevasses. And I had trained for this. Like I have a friend that has a swimming pool, so we put a like ladder across, and we walked across that. And I'm like, okay, I'm kind of getting this. And then I got there. It's like, no, like 0, no. So my friends all go ahead of me. I'm like, yeah, you go first, which was not a good play for me, but we did it. And so I'm the last person over here. And my coach is like, you're gonna run into a hard time on Everest. I just don't know when. So before you leave, we need to put together a toolkit so when that hard time comes, you can like get back in the game. I'm like, okay, perfect. So Khumbu Icefall is before Camp 1. And I'm like, man, I'm already having my hard time. So I'm like thinking of my toolkit. I have a picture of my kids. I pull it out, I look at it. I'm like, they're gonna think I'm crazy. Like that didn't help. So then I wrote myself a letter, right? So I'm reading this letter to remind myself like why I'm doing this and blah, 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 blah. And I'm reading that letter and I'm like, how is it an air-conditioned living room? Like what? This doesn't even count. My mom wrote me a letter, okay? I had a playlist. So I started playing a little Vanilla Ice. Anything less than the best is a felony. Like wasn't helping. I live in Utah. I had an essential oil that was oranges because I remember making orange juice with my grandparents in Florida. So that was supposed to bring back that memory. Didn't help. And so like my whole toolkit is abused and I haven't even like crossed the first ladder. And so I got to the corner and I'm like, okay, I just need to like time in. And I got quiet and I said, there's like 999 reasons why this isn't gonna work. But I only need one to make it work. I just have to take one step. And so I literally like started crossing the ladder, like holding onto the rope, and I'm like, step, so that I could crowd out any other thought. And I'll show you. This has volume sometimes when we're playing this, but yeah, like this is what it looked like to cross. And my team is yelling step. I'm yelling step. I'm swallowing my heart to put it back in my chest as we're going through this section. And I finally make it to the other side. This guy catches me with a big hug. And my team and I are celebrating like it's Christmas, my birthday, and the 4th of July all in one moment. right? Because when you have these emotions in your body and these physical feelings, you have to tell your body, okay, we succeeded, we won. It needs to have a story on speed dial so that when that feeling comes up again, which it will, you can be like, oh yeah, we had this before, but we had success. And that's okay. So we celebrated and onward we climbed. So the next famous section of Everest is this section called the Lhotse Face. And for a lack of better terms, the Lhotse Face is like a 3,700-foot outdoor Stairmaster. I mean, you just go from here and go up to where the rocks are and you cut to the left. And it's everybody's least favorite time of Everest because, again, there's not a lot of visual things to see. And it collects a whole bunch of sun. So the sun will reflect off of all these surfaces, and it can feel like 70 degrees. And then a cloud can come out, and it will go to negative 40 degrees that fast. And so you have to always manage like the temperature and what's going on. And when you commit to this section, you're really not bailing from this section. This is like, we're committing, we're going, whatever shows up, we're gonna nail through it. And because it takes you so long to do this section, like 12 to 14 hours, you typically get quite a few different weather patterns. So when we started this, it was this beautiful, sunny, happy day. And then as we started going, the weather started to shift a little bit. So our guide's like, hey, we need to switch to low lens glasses. So that means you either need pink, yellow, orange, or clear to have your depth perception be right. I'm like, okay, I had pink, of course. So I put on my pink glasses, we start hiking again. And as we're hiking, I'm looking out at my glasses and I'm like, I feel like I'm in a cotton candy machine. Like everything's pink and happy and pink swirling around and things are good. And because I feel like I'm in a cotton candy machine, I start telling myself like, oh, remember when I went to the circus with my grandparents that had cotton candy? And remember the game Candyland that we used to play with the kids? And remember that song like Watermelon Sugar High? Because I'm with all the things. I'm actually having a pretty good time by myself in this little moment. And then our alarms go off on all of our devices because when you're at altitude, your body doesn't signal you to eat or drink. So when the devices go off, that means, okay, we need to stop for a minute, everybody get something to drink, everybody eat something, and then we're gonna continue climbing. So the devices go off, I set my backpack down, I go to get my snack out, I bump my goggles, and I'm like, oh, guys, what are we doing? And the guys are like, whoa, 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 what just happened? I'm like, no, what's going on? It is gray, cold, miserable, and we're in like a whiteout snowstorm. And the guy next to me is like, yeah. What do you mean, yeah? He's like, we've been in this for 2 hours, where have you been? Well, I was in a cotton candy machine. I was having fun. I was happy and warm and pink. He's like, what? And so I gave him my goggles, and he's like, yeah, it looks kind of pink. I get it. I'm like, you get it? And I sat there and I was like amazed that we were on the same rope, doing the same activity at the exact same time. And they were miserable going through it. And I was happy and warm and had energy for days. And the minute I changed that perspective, it like evaporated. And it was the first time I realized like the pink lens theory. Like truly, if you're gonna commit to something and it starts getting hard or miserable or whatever, it's on you to change that experience. It's on you to look at that with a different perspective. That how can I make this fun? Because we're going through it. Of course, now I can't put the pink lenses back on because that bubble's been burst. And so then what we decided was like whoever was leading this section of the climb was going to either tell jokes, sing songs, or tell stories. And when that person got tired, they'd go to the back of the line and the next person would lead. And I can tell you, our team, if you ask like what their favorite section of Everest was, they're gonna tell you this section right here. Because it's where we bonded, went through a really hard time, found a way to have fun, and learn about each other and connect. From Everest, we're past this section, and now we're coming up to Camp 4. when you climb Everest, you don't get to see the summit until Camp 4. Like, I'm on this mountain for weeks, and we never get to see the summit. We get to Camp 4, and all I could think about was like, how do we have this much further to go? Like, we've been on this thing for days. And when you summit Everest, you actually start hiking in the middle of the night because you want to get to the summit as close to sunrise so that when you get down off the mountain as early in the afternoon as possible, because you don't want to be at big mountains anytime after 2 o'clock because storms will come in every day. So we're at Camp 4, and we're deciding who's going in what order to get to the top. And all I can think about at this moment is this section of Everest called the Hillary Step. So when I signed up for Everest, the Khumbu and the Hillary Step were the two things that I was worried about. Like, okay, we got through the Khumbu icefall, so we're good. But now this Hillary Step is like 10 feet below the summit, and it's the crux move. And so as we're climbing that day, we're taking turns on who's in front. And I'm in front of this section, and like this entire time we're climbing, I'm thinking, okay, Hillary Step, what is it gonna look like? How are we gonna move it? What's gonna happen? Because no one can really tell you anything about the Hillary Step. So anyways, I'm leading this section, and I start seeing like flags. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I shouldn't see flags. And so I look back at my guide. I'm like, where do we go? He's like, smiling as big as you can smile. We're at the summit. We're at the summit. I'm like, we're at the summit? He's like, yes. I'm like, where's the Hillary Step? He's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, no, I want to know where the Hillary Step is. He's like, oh, we didn't have it this year. How do you not have it? He's like, well, there's a whole bunch of snow. And so the snow filled it in, so it's not a thing this year. Well, I want to see it. So he like walks me to where it is. He's like, this is where it would have been, and this is how it normally looks, but this is what it looks like this year. You guys, the amount of space that Hillary Step took up in my brain for the year since I committed to doing that climb is embarrassing. And it didn't even show up. And I'm telling you, if you think about it, we all have a Hillary Step so in our lives. And I'm asking you to like label it and be like, you know what, it might not even be there. So you do all the pictures, you're at the summit. And I don't know why I thought you hung out at the summit, but I did. So after we do these photos and the guide's like, hey, we're going down. I'm like, we've been here before. We're not going down yet. He's like, no, we're going down. I'm like, we've been here for 5 minutes. Why are we going down? He's like, because the oxygen in your tank's gonna freeze. It's too cold for you to be up here. So I got to spend 10 minutes on the top of Mount Everest. Okay? I trained 1,238 hours for those photos. And as we're walking down that mountain, I realized it's not the summit we're after. It's the person we become in pursuit of it. And I'm just thinking, like, how many times that frustration, that setback, that story is actually the one I come back to now. It's the one I share. It's not like the smooth moments. It's the overcoming ones. It's the ones that like open a part of you that now get to be a part of you because you've experienced them and you trust that person. So after Everest, it's time to come to K2. Does anybody know anything about K2? 25% of the people that summit K2 die in its pursuit. So that was like a big thing hanging over my head. When you hike into Everest, you get to hike into like little tea towns. K2 does not have those. It's a 55-mile trek in where you set up tents and then you take them down, you set up tents and you take them down. K2 is so dangerous that when you acclimatize like you did on Everest, you don't acclimatize in K2. They have you acclimatize on a mountain next to K2 called Broad Peak. And then when the weather's good, they'll be like, okay, now it's time to go to K2. We just want to spend as little time in there as possible. This year, then 2021, when we did K2, the Nepalese were not allowed in. The Nepalese were not allowed in because there was a kind of a COVID outbreak, and there's a little bit of a war on who's the better mountaineers, the Nepalese or the Pakistanis, because they have more of the 8,000-meter peaks in the world. And so the Pakistanis are like, yes, this is our chance to show that we're just as strong as the Nepalese. And they're both great mountaineers. The big difference is that Nepal has a 10-month season and Pakistan has a 3-month season. So it doesn't take long for there to be a gap in skills and experience because of exposure. So when we're climbing Broad Peak and acclimatizing, we're getting close to like this section called the saddle. And I'm paying attention, I'm like, you know, we've already ran out of fuel, so we can't melt any more snow to turn it into water. We started cutting rope about 2 hours ago from less dangerous places to put it into the more dangerous places. And we still have over 1.5 miles to go to get to that summit. And this isn't even our mountain. Yes, it would feel amazing to say I summited Broad Peak. It's one of the 14 8,000-meter peaks in the world. But things are just not equating. So I'm telling this only other English-speaking person on my team, I think we should go down. Like, we're acclimatized. This isn't our mountain. These are things that went wrong, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, no, 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 like, we're so close. Finally, we come to an agreement that if we don't make a certain amount of progress in 30 minutes, we're going down. We ended up going down. And so he stops at Camp 3 on the way down, and I'm furious, and like anger's a really good emotion for me to work with. And so I'm taking that anger all the way to base camp. So I get to base camp, and it's like 9 o'clock at night. I've been moving like for way more than 24 hours. I get there, and everybody's like, why are you back? Like, what's going on? Like, I'm not talking to any of you. I'm mad at you. I need sleep before I have communication. And they're like, okay. So I go sleep. And then at midnight, I get like lights on my tent. People are like, hey, Jen, there's a problem on the mountain. I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, someone fell with the rope into a crevasse, and now we have 12 people stuck up there. Nobody's been on the mountain that high but you. I'm like, I didn't go that far. I go, I can tell you that there's problems accumulating, so I could see that could happen, but I don't know how to help. It took us 3 days to get everybody off of Broad Peak. Lost hands, lost feet, lost 4 lives. And it was there that I realized big mountains take big teams. So if you have a big goal or a big pursuit or a big anything, you need a big team to make it happen. Because when you have people that are setting the rope, that are also your rescue team, that are also all these other pieces, when one thing goes wrong, you don't have the depth to handle it. So we get back down to base camp, and they're like, hey, weather's gonna turn. We're gonna go try to summit K2. Here's all the things we learned on that mountain. Here's what we're gonna do here. But guess what? There's not enough tent space. So we need to have somebody go ahead. That somebody ended up being me. So the team would go to Camp 1, I would hike up to Camp 2, they'd go to Camp 2, I'd hike up to Camp 3. Big difference between K2 and Everest is like K2 actually has like climbing sections. You have to go up things. And everybody gets a radio on K2. So you get a radio, if it called, then you have 15 minutes to call back and let them know where you are in the mountain and what's happening. So I'm climbing like this section right here. And my radio goes off. I'm like, okay, no big deal. It goes off again. I'm like, oh, they must have bumped it. 3rd time and a 4th time. I'm like, man, it hasn't been 15 minutes. Like, give me a break a second. And so we finally get to this section. That's one of the porters. I hand him the radio, right? And then I'm straining to listen to what they're saying. Because if you strain, you can understand Pakistani. I don't know. I'm like, what? And so they're talking. I'm reading their body language. They hand the radio to me. And they're like, Jen, there's been an avalanche. Rick's dead. Jordan broke his leg. And Stefan's stuck. We can't send a helicopter to rescue him because the helicopter will vibrate another avalanche and we could lose him. You need to decide if you want to continue to climb or not. And they go silent. And so I'm sitting here like running this through my head, Rick, the only other English-speaking person on my team, who's 67 years old, who's been in the mountains forever, who's won awards, he's the one who got caught in an avalanche? Like, what? And so I'm doing this in my head, and somebody must like said my name, because eventually I'm like, Jenn, I'm Jenn, yes, Jenn. They're like, hey, we're going up the mountain. We're a day from the summit. Do you want to join our team? I'm like, I can't join your team. I like have to take care of my team. We just had a death. And so I click gear, we start climbing down. And when you die in K2, you get a plate pounded with your name and date. We did a burial as best as we could. I hiked 55 miles out, took a whole bunch of cars, got in an airplane, landed in LAX, and I can remember being like, whew. And I'm gonna let you know, like if you sigh a sigh of relief in the LAX airport, you've been through some trauma, okay? So I call my nanny and I'm like, hey, I just went through a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not ready to come home. She's like, don't worry, the kids are at camp, process, you'll be fine. So I started going through the story, peeling it apart, figuring out how I'm not the victim and where it all comes together, because I need to have the courage to go back. And I get back into Utah. I drive down the next day to get the kids from the airport, from their camp. They come running to me. And they're like, Mom, did you summit? No, I didn't, but I had success. I'm like, what? I'm proud of the person I showed up as. We had some problems on the mountain. The mountain will always be there, but who you are as a person matters more, and I'm proud of what I did. And they're like, okay, are you gonna go back? I'm like, yeah, I have to go back. It's one of my mountains. They're like, okay, and they rolled with it. They're kids. My coach was smart enough to be like, we need a win. Like, we cannot sit on this energy. We need a win as fast as we can to get momentum going for us. Randomly, this is September of 2021, Russia gives me a permit to climb Dik Tau. And this is one of these technical climbs. And so I had to order 20 pairs of gloves. I sent 19 pairs back. So I had the perfect pair for dexterity and warmth and all these things. And so when I land in Moscow, and my bag doesn't land in Moscow, and I'm at the luggage turntable, and the guide's meeting me there. He's like, no luggage. I'm like, yeah, so can we come back tomorrow? No, we go today. Weather good, or you go home. Go home? I just got here. He's like, no, weather good now, we have to go. I'm like, well, I don't have any stuff. He's like, well, we'll go rent. We're gonna rent gear for this mountain? Are you kidding me? He's like, go home. Okay, sweet, we're renting gear. Let's go. So we go to a store, we rent some gear. I'm rolling sleeves on the jacket. I'm tying the backpack so it doesn't fall off my shoulders. And I'm wearing as many pairs of socks as I can wear so that my feet fit in the boots that do not fit me. And I am wearing Scooby-Doo boys underwear because it's the only thing in the store that would fit me. And I'm sitting here thinking I can't even imagine this is my life right now. So we get to the mountain, and my whole story is anything I learn about the mountain, it's gonna help me come back. It's a beta run. We're just gonna run and get beta and come back. Somehow, we summit. Amazingly. 1 in 9 teams that attempt this mountain summit. We summit. I'm butt scooting down this thing at points because my feet hurt so bad from pounding into the front of the boots because they didn't fit. It was the ugliest, most miserable, horrible climb I've ever had in my life, and all I could think of was thank God all the camera equipment is in those bags so no one gets to see any of these pictures. And when we got to the airport, everything was sitting there perfectly with zip ties, and I just was like, what? And then 6 months later, Russia closed. 6 months later, Russia closed. I'm going to Russia next week for the first time again. This is the first opportunity we'd have to go back to Russia. And I'm sitting there thinking, if I didn't allow it to look messy, sideways, and just see what happened, I wouldn't have the world record today. Because I had a perfect picture of how it was gonna be, and then when I showed up, it was the complete opposite. but we still had success. And I think a lot of times we can get caught up in our head of what it should look like and stop working with what it does look like, and that's where we run into trouble. After Russia, we went to Antarctica. Your compass doesn't work in Antarctica, so that's fun. You use notes from people that have climbed it before. And we were on this section, because we were like the 15th people to summit this mountain ever, and it hadn't been summited in a few years. The North Face athlete team failed the year before. So like a lot in the brain power there. And we're at this point, and we're like, okay, based on these notes, do we think the rock rolled down the mountain? Is it covered in so much snow this year that we don't see the rock? Did we make a wrong turn? Like, where are we at? And when we reached the top of that mountain and we were taking photos and notes and documents and all this kind of stuff, it made me realize how important it is that we climb our mountains, that we're documenting this and figuring out what we're doing, so when the next team comes, it's so much easier for them to summit and have more data points and be like, this is what it is and this is how it goes. Because then when they come, they're gonna have way more energy to go even further with whatever they're doing. From Antarctica, we go back to Mount Logan. We did not have success at Mount Logan our first attempt. The weather was bad and Parks Canada pulled us off. It was us and National Geographic doing some ice drilling, and they said, you won't be able to melt water for the next 2 weeks, so we're gonna pull everybody off the mountain. And it was time to go back to K2. There was not a bone in my body that was ready to go back to K2. I kept thinking like, oh, I'm gonna train for it physically, and then eventually the mental's gonna catch up. The mental was not catching up. And I got a message on Instagram, and it was like a phone call on Instagram, which I didn't even know those things could happen. And it was a person I had met the year before climbing in Pakistan. And they're like, are you coming back this year? I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm coming back. I'm like gonna be there in 3 weeks. Remember how you said that if I trained really, really hard, that I'd someday be able to climb the mountain? I was like, yeah, no, you always have to be ready. So if the opportunity knocks, you can take advantage of it. So yes, you have to train. Well, no one put me on their team this year. Well, yeah, I didn't think it was gonna happen in a year. Like, it could be years, but yeah. No, but I've been doing everything I can, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put you on my team. Let me make some phone calls to see if we can make this happen. So when we went back in July of 2022, we had success, thankfully. I became the 3rd American female to stand on top of K2. But probably the most important thing is this flag right here. It's the first Pakistani female to stand on top of K2. That's a phone call that I got on Instagram of the lady that I met the year before that waited 3 hours in line for me to get an antibiotic that I could bring to base camp in case something went wrong. And when she asked to be on my team, I mean, like, it was a big deal for people, like, are you sure, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, no, we're good. And it gave me something to focus on outside of myself to make that climb easier. And it gave me so much courage on when like things go bad. Like K2 was a disaster in 2021. There wasn't a bone in my body that wanted to go back. And I'm so grateful and humble that I had the opportunity to go back, because I got to play a teeny tiny part in this woman's story. I have twin daughters. I know what it means when they look at somebody that sees somebody that looks like them in an environment that doesn't belong. Because when you have all these little Muslim girls around the world that now see a female that looks just like them on top of their country's prized peak, that plants curiosity. And curiosity is the birthplace of possibility. And so I think when we're in this room today and we're on these pursuits in our lives and these mountains that we're climbing, it is so important that we have the courage to keep going. Because we only get to see life from our perspective. There's a bigger force at play that's saying, okay, like that little human right there, that person's gonna go. So if they keep going, then I'm gonna be able to use them in ways they can't see and participate in stories they didn't even know existed until they happen. From K2, we went to Mount Logan and had success. Came back to the airport in Salt Lake City. My family, my mom, my kids are all at the airport with me. Not quite like the reunion when someone comes back from their mission, but you know, our version. And they're like, Mom, congratulations. So I give the little guy that started this whole thing with the I'm a dumb blonde story a hug. And he's like, Mom, you have bad breath. I was on a plane for 15 hours, bud. Like, okay. And I share that because my cool mom moment was like 3 seconds, okay? Like 3 seconds. So I get the Guinness, well, we think we get the Guinness World Record. File all the documents. I mean, the stuff they need is insanity. File it all, and they're like, you know what? There's a dispute on what's a continent. We need you to climb 2 more mountains. I'm like, there's self-driving cars in Arizona. How is there a dispute on what's a continent today? They're like, no, there is. Indonesia, there's a mountain there that's sometimes considered a part of Australia instead of Asia, and if it is, it's higher in Indonesia. And if we don't want to include Russia into Europe, then you should climb Mount Rosa in Russia. I'm like, okay. So I went to climb Mount Rosa, went to climb Indonesia, and then finally got the world record, but Guinness didn't even tell me. Like, we filed everything, they're like, yeah, it's good, and then then they're like, the guy that was filing it and my contact over there, he's like, yeah, and you're actually gonna be in the record book. Like, not every record gets in the record book. So it's like amazing. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't wanna tell anybody because I don't have the official record, but supposedly I'm in the book, and what happens if they like change the print, so who knows? So anyway, so we get the book, it comes in, I'm on page 86, okay? I was a waitress growing up. And when you're out of something, you 86 it. So I thought, that's cute, universe. And then my thing in the Guinness World Record book is like the size of a postage stamp. And like a couple pages before is a lady who collected Polly Pockets, which are like McDonald's toys, basically. Whole page, right? Awesome. Finally got the record, whatever. But like, it's just fun. Like, life is fun when you think about it. This all started with a lost driver's license, a car accident that should have killed me, a misunderstanding of how a mountain's pronounced, and an evolution of a goal and then community and possibility and all these things that's built it into something so much bigger than I would have, like if you would have met me in 2017 and said, hey, would you want to climb a mountain? Like, take photos, tell me about it, right? And I love life like that. And we're all in this room in these positions where we get to build companies and create opportunities, and we don't even get to see what the ripple effect is, but I can promise you it's bigger than what you can even imagine. So thank you for today. Do you want me to do a question? Yeah. We have like a couple minutes for questions if anybody wants to ask anything. Yes? Yes. You know what? I'm so glad I was driving this car. I was driving a Porsche Cayenne. Because could you imagine if I like drove a Honda Civic and my story for the rest of my life was like, well, I have to drive a Honda Civic forever? Yeah. So luckily for me, the Porsche is, they do like a Formula One like airbag system for the driver. So like it covers you everywhere. So if anybody had been in my car, nobody else would have lived. And they're like, again, they came to the accident like dead person, dead person, dead person. And they're like, oh, it's a Cayenne, there's a possibility. And I was unscathed. Please help with that. I mean, I'm like, I pitch your car every time I speak, and you don't even want to give me like a discount. Come on. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I got a question about how, like, the Everest thing. So you mentioned that you went from base camp to camp 1, and then back to base camp, then camp 2. So back and forth. How much time would you spend at the camps, and then before you summited Everest, where did you camp at?
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so a normal person would do Everest over 8 weeks, okay? And they would do that because that's how long, it takes 2 weeks to get to base camp to acclimatize, and then you'll go up, and then you'll come down. And every time you go up to like a camp, you have to actually come back down under 19,000 feet for your body to start healing itself again. So that's why every base camp in the world on any mountain is below 19,000 feet, because your body won't go into healing mode above that. I, of course, was like, I can't be gone for 8 weeks. I'm a single mom of 7 kids. And so that was like my big thing. I'm like, I'm never gonna be able to climb Everest because of that wall, because the only thing I care about is being a good mom. And that 8 weeks and being a good mom did not equate for me. And so thankfully I got curious, and a doctor in Park City named Max Testa, he's like, well, they have these tent things that you can rent, and you can sleep in this tent that would mimic the lack of oxygen, and so you can acclimatize at home. And I'm like, okay, so I guess they came out with them because when you're in Florida and you have to play football in Colorado, they need to get these guys ready to be able to play up in that less oxygen environment. So I lived in this tent at my house for 6 months, dialing it up, and it helps because I'm at 6,500 feet, so we could get me acclimatized to 22,000 before I left. And so then again, I was still like, I can't be gone for this long. And so we got my expedition to be gone. I was gone 21 days from door to door. And the coolest thing about it, which is a total side story, is when you're gone as a mom, you have a book this thick of what everybody does. Here's who needs to be at practice, here's what they eat, here's how it all happens. And so the last stop I made was the school. I was like, hey, I'm gonna be gone, I've never been gone this long. I have everything covered, but can you give my kids a little bit of grace? Because I'm gone and they might be a little more moody than normal. And this teacher came back to me and she's like, well, this is amazing. Would you do a lesson on setting goals with the kids at school? So I went into the school, we set this lesson up. Every kid colored a flag of what their Everest goal was, ski a black diamond ski run or whatever make a travel soccer team. And then we had a big mountain in the front of the school, and I had a tracking device. So the kids could track me where I was when I was climbing, and then I could Zoom call from base camp, because Wi-Fi at Everest is better than it is in Park City. And so I would call into the classrooms, and they'd ask where'd you poop, what'd you eat, important kid questions. And it was so cool because my biggest fear was being gone, and the biggest gift was being gone, because they got to be loved on by a community that in a way that I could have never imagined. But yeah, so when you do that, so for me, we waited until the whole mountain was set, and we're like, okay, the mountain's set, fly over. And then I was acclimatized, so I didn't have to do the hike in, so I could handle base camp right away. And I fib a little bit on this story in the standpoint, if you go up and down, most people do. When I came, I got to skip and go up to Camp 3 and come all the way back down. So we went up to Camp 3, came all the way back down, waited 3 days, and then we did the push. And when you go for the summit push, you go from base camp, and then you go to Camp 2. You don't do Camp 1. You go to Camp 2. We got stuck in a storm, so we had to stay an extra day at Camp 2. Then you go to Camp 3. You go to Camp 4. You summit, and then most people go down all of those. But I went from summit to Camp 2 and then base. And then by how lucky the timing went, when I went from base, I took a helicopter to Kathmandu. I flew out the same day, and because of the time change, it was crazy. I summited on May 31st, and I was back in Utah June 1st. Yeah.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
So you've been talking about the power of perspective today.
Yes.
So the version of you now before us.
Yeah.
What would you tell the version of you years ago who just crawled out of an accident that you could have easily died from?
Yeah. So I think the version of Jen before the accident was like a perfectionist and so focused on other people's perception of me. I ran soccer teams and Sunday school and PTA classrooms and blah, 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 blah. And I'll never forget running this holiday party. It was a Thanksgiving one, and I was co-running it with another parent. And it was one of those Pinterest moms, which I love Pinterest moms, but I'm just not a Pinterest mom. So this mom came in with like a sweater that had turkey feathers and like a turkey hairpiece and had a matching one for me. And so I'm in the bathroom putting on this like hideous turkey outfit, wondering what decisions I've made in my life that put me into this spot. And I was mortified. And then like, a few weeks later, this car accident happens. And I'm like, I'm not the turkey sweater mom. I'm like so glad that there's a turkey sweater mom. I'm not that mom and I don't have to be. And so for me, it was very much like, you do you, I'm gonna do me, they're gonna be different and they all matter. And I think that's the biggest perspective shift. And so yes, but yeah, thank you guys so much for your time today. It was great to be here. So yeah.